A word for our listeners. Masks of Nyarlathotep is set in the 1920s. We will be using terms and sayings from those times, including some that could be considered offensive. It is not our intention to offend. We merely wish to offer as accurate a view of the time period as possible. Welcome to the Nerds Domain presents Masks of Nyarlathotep. Join us each week as our investigators follow a path of clues and attempt to save the world from an ancient evil. Starring John Quiett, Justin Kimmett, Shirley Niedzwiecki, George Chimples, Jason Hall, and Scott Troiano, with Matt Quiett running the table as keeper. Eldritch evils and crazed cultists await you just beyond this music.
Hi everybody, and welcome back to Masks of Nyarlathotep. This is a little bit of a special event today. Dr. Whittington, Shirley's character, is going to be taking a little bit of a side quest of her own, because every time that somebody splits off from the group by themselves, that's a good thing, right?
Oh yeah, always.
So today we're joined with Shirley.
Hello.
As well as Phil, who you guys have heard in our first side quest as you played.
Bobby? Were you Bobby?
I was one of the boys. I don't know.
Yeah. He played one of the little children that Shirley brought over to the cult. So say hi, Phil.
Hello.
And then a friend of ours, David.
Good afternoon.
And Phil and David, actually, this is kind of also a prep session for our Call of Cthulhu game at Gen Con that you guys are all going to miss out on, and probably this will come out that weekend. But, next year, there's always the chance that we do that again, so you should check that out and listen for that. So, Shirley is playing Dr. Catherine Whittington.
Yes.
Like she always does. But, Phil, who are you playing?
I'm going to be playing Edward Turner. He is a 51-year-old Englishman who is stationed in Cairo as a junior ambassador, and he's been there for about 12 years.
Okay. Anything else about you that we would know? Family?
Just a minor family in England that, but no land or title of note. I spent a lot of time in India before I came to Cairo, as well as a few other places, but all just pretty much office work and diplomatic stuff.
Okay. And David, who are you playing?
I am playing 34-year-old Laurent Beauchene, a French major in the French Legion during World War I.
The French Foreign Legion.
Correction,
Sorry.
French Foreign Legion during World War I. Most of my tours as an officer were spent in Algeria. Upon completion of my time as an officer in the French Foreign Legion, I opted to take an ambassador's post in Cairo, taking an administrator's post for an ambassador in Cairo, and am spending my time here building upon my knowledge in the occult.
Okay.
My background actually stems from being part of a wealthy French family who has their hands in a few different businesses back in our home country.
Okay. And you guys are both, all three of you are part of a group called the British Tea Society, started by Edward Turner about 12 years ago.
Yeah.
And the idea behind that, Phil?
Well, on the surface, it's, to enjoy tea properly the British way, and not some of the mint tea that's local to the area. But the sub-purpose is really to get people of education and esteem together to discuss mythos.
So, okay. And I will be playing a character specifically today. His name is Rudolf Klettgau. He is an Austrian. You guys would know that he was... his family was exiled about 2 centuries ago, and they've kind of been on the move since then. So he has money, but no real connection to his homeland, and he's kind of settled here in Cairo with money. He doesn't do much other than have money. So, with money you invest in businesses and digs and that kind of thing, but he's around as part of the high society socials. So, does that all make sense?
Sounds good.
All right, I think we're ready. So, Shirley, Dr. Whittington has called a meeting. Mm-hmm. Kind of a slightly urgent meeting. Not that, we got to meet in 10 minutes, but we should probably meet before the end of the day.
Right.
So you would have gone to the hospital? That last thing you did was you were going to the hospital to... To, quote-unquote, check on Dr. Clive.
Yes.
Are you going to finish his check?
And then go to the tea?
Or are you going to leave him and not do that? Because I think that would inform your character's point of view as you go into this.
I'm trying to remember her frame of mind when we left that.
In all fairness, you had just murdered a bunch of people.
Right. So you guys don't know this, but I poisoned the water supply at the dig site.
I'm sorry, I missed what? Spoilers.
God.
You were pretty gung ho about doing it. You felt bad, but you were pretty gung ho.
About the poisoning, but then...
and then about making sure that he could never, ever complete that ritual.
Right. So the good of the many outweigh the needs of the one or the few.
Yeah. Yeah, Spock that. Go on.
Okay, I think, they would have found out the next day if he was dead or not, so...
Yeah.
Definitely, with her knowledge, her medical knowledge, she would have been able to... give him cardiac arrest.
Well, actually, arsenic. Since the last time we played, I've actually listened to a lot of podcasts about arsenic poisoning.
Now you're scaring me.
It was actually what you missed in history class.
Right.
They did an October series on murders and ghosts, and they were like, in the late 1800s, early 1900s, arsenic was the way to go. Because it was hard to trace. It looked like you were sick.
Lace?
Yep.
What's Old Lace?
Arsenic and Old Lace is a play or...
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought maybe it was a drink that they put the arsenic in
no,
and
actually,
gave it to people and then that's how they died.
It's tasteless, it's odorless, it's just what you use.
Okay.
So, you could probably drip a little bit of that in his IV and he would just pass.
I thought it was a horrible, it gave you pains and...
Unless you're already sick.
Oh,
and then you just kind of die from the overdose.
Okay.
So you do kill him?
Let's do the arsenic then.
Okay.
Hey.
So you finish that up and probably a couple of hours later meet with the three of us.
So she's probably going to go to the same priest that Johnny goes to confess.
Are you Catholic though?
No, but I'd feel really guilty. I would need to
drink
and talk to somebody. Not talk to somebody at the bar though.
So you probably spent the couple hours getting ready, redressing because you guys had been up kind of late the night before, and you need to clean up again. And okay, so we'll say this is probably an afternoon tea.
Mm-hmm.
It's all proper English teas.
Well, I mean, sometimes you have morning tea.
High tea.
Yes.
Are we drinking this with milk or with lemon?
Oh, never with milk. So you.
Wait, did you look this up?
No, I really didn't.
I thought Brits put milk in their tea.
My tea comes in bags. That's what I know. So you guys probably meet at the home of Edward Turner. When you do a normal full gathering, you rent a room somewhere and they serve tea. But since it's just the four of you, you probably meet at Edward Turner's home. You have more than enough space and money, and
I have the best tea.
And the servants you have there are not going to question what you're talking about. They're going to pour the tea and leave. So,
okay.
Please come in.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Afternoon.
Yeah.
So, urgent. What's going on?
Well, I may be leaving the country soon.
For?
Well, back a few years, you read those pieces of paper from the Al-Azif?
Ah, the Al-Azif, yes.
Yes. Well, I found that those few scraps of paper are actually a complete book called the Necronomicon. Not Necronomicon.
They're from, or just those scraps in and of themselves complete an entire book?
They're from the Necronomicon.
Necronomicon.
Have you found more parts of this text?
Actually, the friends that I've made, oh my gosh, there's so much to explain. Okay, this group of people came into town and they came seeking a couple of people that were at the hospital that I'm working at and caring for, Eva McCree, and they said there was a few things that kind of interested me that they were talking about, boogeymen and things like that. and they started talking about this Cthulhu that you guys have spoken of before.
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. Are you referring to... Are you referring to the Clive expedition that we just recently heard about that was hospitalized?
No. It's actually a group of 3 people.
4, mostly English or mostly American.
Yep, mostly American group that came into town, and they were also interested in the Clive expedition as well. Come to find out that the person leading the Clive expedition was not the person who it was.
What do you mean?
I don't even know how to explain this. It's unbelievable if you had not seen it yourself. He, the shapeshifter.
I'm sorry.
A what?
He was a werewolf?
No. He made his face look like somebody else's face.
With makeup?
No. He
With a
contorted
mask?
Yeah, some sort of prosthetics?
No. He contorted his face to look like someone else.
How is this done?
If you would... Do you know anything? I don't know how he did it.
You can tell the magic. I mean, you know that it was magic.
Magic.
Right, magic. So how did he really do this? Was some sort of... Was it an illusion?
I told you this was very unbelievable. It was not an illusion. He changed his face into someone else's face.
When did you witness this?
5 days ago?
5 days ago.
Like, was it dark? I mean...
Was in the headlights.
Was this something that you saw clearly, or just...
I tell you, gentlemen, I saw it for myself. He changed his face to look like someone else.
Do you describe it in detail?
And then,
What did he change his face to look like?
So, as she begins to describe it...
Yeah, go ahead.
His face was full, almost like a thick man, and his body was the same. And then it melted with nothing leaving the face to look completely different. So he went from an English facial structure, all of that, of a plump man, to a very skinny Arabic man. Skin tone changed, everything.
So this wasn't just a facial change, by the way you're describing it. This was a whole body transfiguration.
Yes, transfiguration.
And you...
Impossible.
Are you feeling well?
Yes, I'm feeling a little jittery right now. There's a lot of things going on, especially with what happened with the Clive expedition. I feel very nervous with the things that we've found out. I don't know how much you've gone into study the elder gods of the Cthulhu mythos, but my group has ran into and actually dealt with Nyarlathotep.
Oh my goodness. I've read a little bit about him.
This is the... So this creature is this messenger that they talk about of the elder gods.
Yes, Nyarlathotep.
Okay.
Do you suspect this changing being that you saw to be this Nyarlathotep?
From what the group is talking about, no. It doesn't sound like the changing is more like a ritual or a magic ritual, something that's cast upon somebody where they can change themselves in such a way to look wholly like another person. Nyarlathotep, though, was a visitation from a lesser god of the Cthulhu.
But from what I understand about Nyarlathotep, he comes in many different forms as well. So...
I don't know anything other than what they told me about it being a tree, somebody sat on a throne, and it brought him into existence, and the 2 people that I cared for at the hospital went totally insane once that happened.
So how does Nyarlathotep connect to Thank you.
You're welcome,
Connect
Edward.
to the shape changer.
Nyarlathotep was brought and gave caution, told them. They didn't really go into detail about what they told them, but
I'm sorry.
they gave me
They
pause.
told them.
Oh,
Who's they?
Nyarlathotep told the group of explorers, the Americans that I told you about.
Your friends have met. Claim to have met.
Yes, that's how the group is made up of Captain Wilkerson, Professor Wentworth, Ian Byrne, which is an investigator from the United States, and Beauchene, which was a friend of Courtney Weld, who ended up in my care, as well as a friend. And then Ian Byrne was a friend of Eva McCree, which was another, I guess, adventurer or explorer that was in the group who also ended up in my care.
You are, Mr. Turner, you are aware of Captain Wilkerson. His father is in the House of Lords. You've never met the gentleman, but you know he served as captain in the war. His family's of great prestige. Using his name, and she's not just like name dropping, but her using his name means that there's some validity here as far as the British are concerned.
So you're talking as the
Yes,
keeper.
Yeah.
As a member of the French Foreign Legion, would I have knowledge of him from World War One?
Roll your knowledge.
20.
Okay.
Yeah, so knowledge is on top right.
Okay,
Very, very top right.
gotcha. And I'm at 95.
Yeah,
so
so you would have heard about some of his exploits. I don't remember the details of them. But he's known as, he's very courageous. He left the service after the war and became almost a safari organizer. He likes to shoot things, big things. He's a big game hunter.
So I probably would know, especially with some of my proficiency with armed combat, then I might have some knowledge of those exploits. I know
Yeah,
that.
you probably have never met him.
But I've heard of him.
Yeah, so.
Okay.
Excuse me. Captain Wilkerson, really?
Yes, Captain. Do you know Captain Wilkerson?
Well, obviously, from his time in the House of... His father's in the House of Lords, so I'm familiar with the family.
Oh.
I've also heard of Captain Wilkerson, but not from the same aspect. I'm familiar with some of his safari leading expeditions. I hear he's a great hunter.
Well, he's well armed, I will tell you that. These gentlemen do not go anywhere without their armaments, and
Paranoid is the word you're looking for.
I think they to me, they seemed very paranoid when I first met them, but now, after what I saw last night, I would say maybe not so paranoid. Which is another thing I would like to tell you about, gentlemen. I'm sorry, there's so much to tell you that I've...
Well, quick pause here,
Okay.
just to make sure that we're following this. So, these gentlemen came here from to Cairo from the United States.
Well, they made a stop in London.
Based
I believe,
upon their alleged encounter with Nyarlathotep.
That happened while they were here in Egypt, I believe.
At the Bent Pyramid.
At the Bent Pyramid.
Which you both are familiar with. It's a dig site of no note, really. People dug there, didn't find anything worthwhile, and left it.
So.
And how, again, is this tying to this shapeshifter that you spoke of 5 nights prior?
He was an acolyte.
He was an acolyte. He was a follower and was at the dig site, the Clive expedition, where the Clive expedition was. So they must have been looking for something, which I believe from the discussion of Captain Wilkerson's group, they were trying to open up a ritual chamber to summon another god.
So the acolyte whom you saw change was a part of a group at the Bent Pyramid trying to perform a ritual to awaken an elder god.
No, they were not at the Bent Pyramid. They were at the... which pyramid was that?
It's at the Clive dig. I don't remember which pyramid that is.
It was at the pyramid at the Clive expedition, where the dig is, not at the Bent Pyramid. The Bent Pyramid is where they actually encountered Nyarlathotep. something about bribing the guards to get into the second half of the pyramid that's not usually open or something like that. So, but one of the most amazing things that I saw happen was last night, where I forgot the gentleman's name.
Omar Shakti.
Omar Shakti,
which you both know as a very wealthy cotton merchant.
The Omar Shakti, the cotton merchant that's down in that one area of the city.
I've heard a little bit more about him than that, but yes.
Group, Captain Wilkerson's group, got a lead and decided to visit him. And then when we arrived...
was this visit meant to be on friendly or peaceful terms? Or was this more of an inquisition?
I went there under the assumption that it was going to be friendly.
You carried the knockout stuff. Don't claim that you had no intention. Go easy there. If you want to lie to them, fine, lie. But you know better. I'm reminding the player. Go ahead.
Spoilers.
See, now I have to regroup.
Rewind.
Yeah.
Play.
So, I went there under the assumption we were just going to be asking questions. I mean, they had an inkling that something may go wrong. I may have taken some chloroform with me, but that's not the point.
Whoa. So just to understand here, you thought it was of a peaceful meeting, but you brought precautionary elements with you?
Yes, for if someone got really, really upset, we wouldn't want them to, go crazy on us. And
your standard procedure to deal with crazy people is to chloroform them?
Well, to subdue them in a manner that, will not make them hostile any longer.
But if this was peaceful, then what was the reasoning behind the precautions?
Because they felt, the group, Captain Wilkinson's group, felt like it could turn into something very ugly quickly.
Well, I have heard that Omar is involved in some perhaps shady dealings.
I too have heard similar sentiments.
The Dark Pharaoh?
Indeed.
The Dark Pharaoh, they talk about that a lot. The group talks about the Dark Pharaoh a lot. What have you heard about the Dark Pharaoh?
Very little at this time, I'm afraid, other than it is presumed that Mr. Omar is the lead member of the cult group, the Dark Pharaoh, for the Cairo chapter.
Well, he may as well be his... I don't know if you knew this. He had a pet cat, and I have...
I'm sorry, had a pet cat?
He had a pet cat because when we were there, it turned into this giant beast and just attacked us.
So, shapeshifters and cats that turn into giant beasts.
Yes.
Are you sure that you're feeling fine?
Other than...
Would you like more tea?
Yes, a little more. Do we have any whiskey to put in the tea?
We can certainly muster up some cognac, I believe.
But, I mean, if you had seen this yourself, I'm telling you this because I have joined the group and we may be leaving to go to Kenya.
You joined their group?
Yes, I am very, very curious. I would like to write to you guys very often about our travels and what we find.
What group have you joined? The
Captain Wilkerson's group.
The Dark Pharaoh group?
No, he's not part of the Dark Pharaoh.
You're joining the Americans.
What I gather, yes, Captain Wilkerson's group, the Americans group, but he's from London, England, somewhere there. What I've found is that from what they're talking about, there is some dire need to save the world. Like there will be a ritual that will be performed in
Kenya.
Yes.
Saving the world in Kenya.
Well, Kenya does have its old ways, and there is rumor of this place called the Mountain of the Black Wind in Kenya.
Yeah, with the black priestess or...
You have to remember that Africa has a lot of its beginnings in that region, including the Nile begins in that general area. So there's a lot of older civilizations there.
Moving on from Kenya for a moment, I want to make sure that I have a few aspects of this correct. You were treating some people at the hospital for insanity.
Yes, Eva and Weld.
Their friends show up.
Yes.
You go off on some adventures with them, see a shape changer and a cat turn into a giant monster, and now you're going to leave your job and go to Kenya. This does not seem like sane behavior.
You gentlemen know my heart and my want to understand the occult more. I mean,
understand the occult, yes, but at what point does
this
this take a logical turn for somebody who has an interest in psychological behavior?
Exactly, psychological behavior. Maybe there's a ritual or something that's been enacted upon these people that make them think that these monsters exist.
Are you sure you haven't fallen victim to the same plague?
No.
You are seeing these things yourself.
You do remember, this is Matt telling you, do you remember the flesh that you guys looked at? You might bring that up from the attack that you tried to steal.
Oh, because I hid it in my
Yeah.
pocket.
I'm going to tell them about
Oh. And I would have put it in my purse. Oh, but I also have this. And I pull out from my little purse satchel a piece of flesh that covered... What did it cover? A book or what was this?
No, this is probably the size of a sand dollar, or a good sized sand dollar. However, the flesh that she's pulling out is not skin, it's very deteriorated. Because I told you guys when you...
Yeah.
Like mummified?
No, like it's decomposing. But
So
much more decomposed than she seems to expect it to be. She's a little taken back.
So it's not like leathered or...
No. Mr. Turner, could you roll me a knowledge, please?
That appears to be a 36.
Oh yeah, you're more smart than that.
Okay. Yeah.
You're
not, but I am.
You know more smart than that. You're more smart than that. This reminds you of what you've read about Chthonian flesh.
This brings to mind something to me that I've read in these occult matters. Have you heard of Chthonians?
That's very much what Captain Wilkerson's group has been talking about. Something about deep ones, or
The Chthonians attacked the mosque.
or was
Deep-
I there when that happened?
You guys went there with Jason. Yes, you were there.
Okay.
Deep ones?
Actually,
They mentioned deep ones on the boat.
yeah, they mentioned deep ones coming from when they came from America to London, but then
Another.
They mentioned...
there was
Who?
to me when they were talking in a group about what had happened to them, what had happened to the Wilkerson group.
Oh, you
But
came over here 2 years
then,
ago?
do you remember would it have been a couple days ago? Would it have been in the news that the mosque was
It was
attacked?
been yesterday.
Yeah, the mosque was attacked yesterday by a group of people.
It's not what the
Things.
newspaper said at all. The newspaper said that part of the mosque collapsed in some sort of freak accident.
I read about
Yeah.
that this morning.
Terrible,
It was
terrible
not
thing.
an accident. We were attacked.
Attacked by who?
What creatures?
Chthonians.
Yeah, the Chthonians.
So you saw the Chthonians?
Yes.
No, you did not.
No, what?
You have the flesh left over from it.
Oh, because it was underneath the...
Yes.
And we kept it. This is what was left of them. I did not actually see them in the flesh, quote-unquote flesh.
This seems to be decomposed already. It's as if it's been dead for a while.
I know, this is strange, because this is not what it looked like when I wrapped it up yesterday and put it in my satchel.
And you do relate to them that when she pulled it out of the cold storage at the police station, it wasn't decomposed this far either, but it was
No.
still much farther decomposed than it should have been.
And it had been held in cold storage, so being in my bag may have accelerated its decomposition.
So these Chthonians, are they not human?
I don't know, I did not see
They're
them.
snake-like.
Oh, they're snake-like. as a player,
That's
I personally have no
yeah,
knowledge.
that's about as much. That's probably about
Okay.
as much as you know. That and they cause earthquakes.
Well, that and it's established that they were connected to many earthquakes.
Earthquakes?
That's
or
what the myth has said in the books that you've read, but now it
or
seems like it's true.
like tremors?
Ironically, yes, very much like that.
Sorry, I could not help myself.
Actually, Mr. Turner, what you know more is that they look almost like the sandworms from Dune.
Okay.
And that they burrow a lot. So
Imagine it's basically a large earthworm of snake proportions. Or larger.
probably larger.
Like an anaconda?
Boa, anaconda.
Yeah.
Yes, and they burrow through. So similar to an earthworm, burrow through the ground, but they're able to.
They just generate
Or-
earthquakes, supposedly. I mean, this is
in
also
groups or like
just by themselves.
just one by itself.
Yeah.
But they can, through their movements and their powers, from what I've read, they can generate earthquakes.
So they can cause seismic activity by themselves.
So these Chthonians, did they appear from below the ground when they attacked the...
We didn't see them, or I didn't see them. I just saw the wreckage of what was left, and
So you weren't inside at the time?
well, yes, I saw the wreckage of what was left, and then I took part of the skin.
How did you get part of the skin if you didn't see them?
It was collected by the police. She did explain. I explained for her.
The-
She was collected by
Okay.
the
My
police.
apologies.
Once we were taken to safety, the police did, cover the scene and get all of the evidence that they could. And then when we spoke to the police at the police station, they had it in cold storage. And being the Captain Wilkerson and the people on his team or adventuring group or whatever that they are, had more knowledge about it, the police let them look at the evidence, and that's when I
Requisitioned
Yes.
such research materials?
so that I could research it as well. So there it is. It looks like the myths that you have read about in the past about Cthulhu and some of their lesser gods may actually be true.
Doesn't look like there's much left to examine.
No, not at all. I don't understand, but I don't understand about the physiology of these creatures, which I would like to understand a little more.
Well, we can't say that they are truly descendants of worms, because from what I understand from worms, when you separate the main part of the body from the rest, both can keep surviving and heal and make two. This, on the other hand, seems to rapidly deteriorate.
Yeah. The Captain Wilkerson's group does have several books. Professor Wentworth, he teaches at Harvard. They have kept several books about the mythos, and I've been thinking about reading them just to get a better handle on what is going on.
If you can get a hold on the books, that would be of great interest to the society.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I could requisition one and pass it along before we leave.
That would be amazing. Though I am still concerned about this trip you're taking with these gentlemen that we know so little about, but
Into
Captain,
Kenya.
Yeah, well, but at least with Captain
I've
Wilkerson,
never been to Kenya before.
a good solid Englishman, I feel relatively.
I feel
Certainly
rather
be
safe
safe.
with him. They're pretty good shots.
And that actually will do us tonight for Masks of Nyarlathotep. The conversation will obviously devolve into you guys trying to talk her out of going to Kenya, and clearly Dr. Whittington is very much involved and very much invested in staying with this party. So, we will leave you here. Hopefully you'll hear another part of an episode right after this with Ian Byrne speaking with his priest and setting up his next character, because that's what needs to happen. But you can always find us on Facebook and on Twitter, and you can always check out our shirts on /loot, and we'll talk to you real soon.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Masks of Nyarlathotep. I'm here with John.
Hi.
And we are going to continue this short kind of episode. You've heard the first half with Dr. Catherine Whittington and her proper British tea party. Now we're going to start with John, and John has decided that he is going to take confession. So this takes place after the breakfast where they decide to go to the pyramid. So you'll probably hear the ends of that after this episode, but there's not a whole lot there that affects this. So
continuity doesn't get messed with a whole lot.
Yeah. So
in theory.
Yeah. So, Mr. Byrne, you leave the breakfast.
Yes.
And head to
the unnamed church attached to the unnamed world-renowned Cairo hospital that Dr. Whittington works at.
Okay.
And that we have checked several people into recently.
Saint Healer of Bleeders.
It's like the International Hospital of Cairo.
No, I'm saying the church is Saint Healer of Bleeders.
Sure, yeah, that'll work.
Okay. And
not historically accurate.
Not at all.
But just go with it. Just pretend.
Yeah, we are.
if you know the right answer, go. That's the right answer. So
yeah. So you're going to go in there and take confession.
Yes.
Are you Catholic?
Yes. You are. Ian Byrne was raised a proper Irish Catholic. He fell out of practice, as it were, as he entered his adult life.
Probably, especially after the war.
No, he was well on the road. Although there is a bit of the Malcolm Reynolds syndrome in there. The atrocities he saw in the war led him to question things. He's always been a moral person, at least in his own opinion. Mm-hmm. Just religion didn't offer him what it seemed to offer other people. So he got out of practice, and it's as a proper Catholic, it ate at him, from time to time. But he had to live his life, and so now he's found himself almost basically halfway around the world. And he's got a lot of things weighing heavy on his soul.
Okay. So you come in for confession, and I will confess I've never been to confession, but I assume there's some sort of line.
Well, if it's busy,
but this is probably like mid-morning, so there's probably no line. So the church is probably pretty all but empty.
Sure, there's going to be the women and older folks who go daily, kneeling in prayer, but as far as the confessional booth goes, they'll have posted hours, and they'll be available. You might have to wait a couple minutes for the last person to finish up, or imagine.
Yeah, you walk in, there's not much of a big deal. I mean, it's right after breakfast. It's normal posted hours. But,
sure.
I would assume that in this situation, the priests also help the hospital, so they probably rotate in pretty in and out pretty quickly. So there's probably not a lot of closed times.
Right.
Other than midnight.
Right. The father, the priest may not be in the booth. Somebody knows where to find him.
Yeah. So you approach the booth. There's a priest waiting for you. He's a French gentleman named Valentin Clavet. He greets you as a proper priest should, and welcomes you into the booth.
I apologize to any Catholic listeners. It's been a long time for me as well. John the player. The ceremony begins. Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. And then he would ask,
how long has it been since your last confession?
Honestly, I couldn't give you specifics. Let's say 8 years or so.
It has been a while.
It has.
There's much trouble you with.
Yes.
So tell me.
This is a long, complicated story. I'll try to be as brief as possible. Several months ago, I was contacted by my commanding officer from the war. A man he knew was murdered. Well, a man he knew needed help. Okay. And upon the first meeting, we entered the man's hotel room to find him murdered by two gentlemen from this continent, or with strong ties to this continent. And we gave chase, and one of the men was killed in that incident, not by me, but I could have maybe done things differently. So I feel like my inactions led to the man's death.
Sure. That's a way to look at that. Sure.
I was employed by my commanding officer, who had a lot of money available to him to investigate the murder of his friend, and that led to some things. There was a man practicing dark, evil things. He had a monster in a hole, and he would feed people to it. And that was the first time I ever committed a murder. I'd killed people during the war. I'd even had to shoot at violent offenders as my time I was a police officer. I've injured people, I've hurt people, but it was always for a purpose. But when I saw that monster and I learned what that man had done, I couldn't stop myself. I had to just end him. It wasn't out of a sense of justice for his victims. It was just, he was too evil to live. And then based on what we found in his home, we burned the building down. No innocents were harmed in that incident. It was an empty building, but it was innocent people's homes, and we destroyed it. I took full part in that. And I mean, obviously I'm very torn up about that, but it was an evil place, and I don't know how. I mean, that was the only way to deal with the situation. Now we've come here, and we came to England, and we found more people somehow involved in the same thing. The picture is not clear to me. And then there was another monster in the countryside that wasn't even part of the cult that we were dealing with. It was just, there was a monster out there, and it had consumed this innocent girl, and she's dead now. And I don't entirely feel bad about that, to be quite honest. I mean, I would have liked to have saved her, but we didn't know how to do it. And it was save her, or it was try to save her, or other innocent people would definitely die at the hands of the monster. So, again, maybe there was something that could have been done, but I don't know what it would have been. And essentially, it was horrible. Then I was kidnapped, or before that I was kidnapped by occultists, and a lot of people died when I was rescued from that situation. They were, willing participants, so again, I don't feel entirely bad about that. And so now I find myself here in Egypt, halfway around the world, and we just poisoned about 50 to 60 people. Here. And this the murder? I'm sorry, out of character.
The not Gavin yet.
Oh, right. Well, I was including that in the poison.
Sure.
My memory just lumped that in with the poisoning of the camp that he was running. We tortured a man to death after we poisoned that entire expedition. but we know that they're involved in something evil that's happening.
And this evil, how do you know?
There are books that tell us. We've seen things. This is going to sound crazy, but I mean, we've seen, in England, we saw the sky crack open and something tried to come through.
Sky crack. Describe that.
I don't know how I could exactly. If the sky wasn't the sky, but was a blue painted wall, and some kind of monster was on the other side of the wall, and it dug its way through. It doesn't make sense. Thinking about it is hard.
You come for confession today?
Yes, Father, I need.
Are you sure you don't need treatment in the hospital instead?
I'm sure that would be of a benefit, but there's more work to be done. If I don't go forward with this, well, I mean, it sounds crazy to say it out loud. I know that it sounds crazy, but if I don't, if my group does not act, the entire world is going to be in jeopardy. I don't feel like I'm answering a call to do these actions, to take action. But if I don't, we're all going to die.
Have other people seen these things?
Yes, I have companions that would tell you the same stories were they of the mindset to do so.
And so other people have seen these things with you?
Yes.
God doesn't always place a call, but more a situation. You believe this evil was out there?
Yes. I didn't believe such evil could exist until I saw it with my own eyes.
This is a point where I would normally ask you to roll this way, but I'm not going to. So it doesn't matter. You have, we'll just assume you succeed. Okay. It's that way. There's sincerity in your voice and stuff. So if you truly believe in this evil, what are you confessing? You're destroying evil. I understand the destruction of innocents' homes, but beyond that, what confession are you making?
Murder is still a sin. Murder is murder. That's what
this creature, this monster you spoke of that consumed this girl. You said that you had to kill it or it will kill him.
Yes.
Much like a soldier has to kill another soldier. It will kill him.
Well,
that's
yeah,
war.
It's kill or be killed. Yes.
So that creature is war.
Right. But the
atrocities you said in the basement with the creature in the hole.
Yeah.
Was that not also war? He had done atrocities, he would do more. Something had to be done to stop it. We weren't looking for justice.
I could have turned him over to the authorities. They may have.
Would that have been evil?
I don't know. You can't know. It's a path untaken.
Perhaps you crash your actions. You did so to stop what he was.
Yes, that was what I felt I had to do.
That's what you intended, at least.
Yes.
With these poisonings, you haven't said enough about them.
Well, you're going to hear about them in a day or two anyway, I'm sure.
Was this the expedition that became sick?
Yes.
That has been.
Oh.
And your group is behind that?
Yes, because they are preparing to bring monsters into this world that, if you'd seen what I had seen, it still boggles my mind to think about it. Their existence is frightening, and they're going to willingly bring these creatures in to the world if we don't stop them.
Is this any different than manning machine gun at a hill. The soldiers charge it. It's more intellectual. It's more thought based. You plan things out, but how is that not also war? If what you say is true, it sounds like you have a solid belief there. I'm not hearing what I normally hear from most of them rant and rave. If you truly believe these things are going on, you truly believe you're fighting against an evil, what have you done wrong?
I don't know, Father.
We all must act in clear mind. Has your mind been clear this whole time?
Well, I mean, when you see these things, it's hard to say exactly how you're acting. You're influenced by them.
Have you been coping? Liquid courage, perhaps?
Yeah, a lot of that.
Then that must have made it. If you say that you're protecting the world, you do so without the clearest mind possible.
True. Okay.
There you have spoken quite a bit here. Let's go back to the first bit. You say that you watched a man be killed. You could have changed things.
Well, yes, had action. I brought them. I did not commit the murder. I brought the man in who did. He acted very rashly.
An Asian man just murdered someone.
The full picture is still unclear, but evidence that like I said, I used to be a police officer. Had the evidence been presented to me, it would have been clear that they needed to at least be apprehended and the judicial process worked upon. The system needed to see these men.
As a police officer, you have apprehended.
Yes.
And that doesn't always go exactly
smoothly
as you planned.
Yeah.
Could you say that this was merely too much force applied to a delicate situation?
Perhaps, but we weren't acting in the authority of the law. We were private citizens. Like I said, so I don't know. I feel culpable, but I don't know what that. Honestly, the second man we apprehended, and he had a knife with blood on it. That led us to, he had a club with blood on it. The other man, we don't know what his actions were because he was not alive to answer questions, confess his we don't know what his involvement was exactly. So
you say that there are these monsters, these creatures. What do you know of these? How describe them? You've been vague.
Well,
this thing in the hole.
It was more or less formless, except the faces of the people that it had eaten would rise up out of the muck that it was made of and scream. And then they would be reabsorbed and new faces would rise up. We had reports of missing people from the neighborhood, from the area, and I saw those people.
That sounds terrible.
You have no idea. There were fish monsters, like that walked on two legs but were covered in scales. They took shotgun blasts to the face and chest and kept coming. They were horrible to behold. It's hard to not believe it when it's told to you by people you trust. But we've seen corpses walk. Just get up, they're dead, and they get up and they walk. And yeah.
And you say that there's something terrible going on that you and your companions must work to end.
There are two things. There's a creature called Black Pharaoh. And then tonight, there are people from that camp that we poisoned are going to try and bring forth a creature called the Sphinx. Not like the statue, but something worse. Something not talked about in stories, even in legends. It's not the same thing. And if we don't stop them, they might bring it out. They might walk around the streets of the city tomorrow if we don't do something. At least that's what we believe might happen.
There are things I need to research, look into. There's a lot of things that you talk about. I would like to speak with you again sometime soon. Could you come back tomorrow or the next day?
I'll try. I can't promise that I will, but I'll try.
Why can you not promise leaving?
Well,
this is about your soul, my child.
We have to go deal with these people tonight. And honestly, I'm afraid I'm not going to make it back. But if I do, I'll come see you.
And if you don't make it back, where will you be? Will you be dead?
I don't know how to answer that question.
And who would I contact?
Well, yeah, if I don't come to you, you can find me, and I slip a business card with the name of the hotel we're staying at under the divider. That's where I'm staying.
So tonight, before you go on this next step, pray for guidance and clarity. God will guide you if you ask.
Thank you, Father. So you feel that if everything I've told you has been exactly true, that
I think that you are guilty of bad decisions of another person, rash actions of any other person that have larger consequences because of the situation.
but not unforgivable.
Absolutely. There's but one unforgivable sin, not yours. It's Juice's. And you're not him.
No, definitely haven't done anything like that. Don't want to. Don't plan to. Alright, Father. You've helped me. I hope we get stuck soon.
And that'll do us tonight. Masks of Nearla. You can find us on Facebook and on Twitter, and you can buy our trips over at /Luke. We will talk to you guys real soon.
This has been a production of the Omega Nerds Network, the network where it's on.